product. Once you're building a product, you sometimes you can lose the relationship, close the relationship.
Mm.
It's very, very important not to lose, but it's easy, yeah, comparing to like the agency.
Welcome back to Young Smart Money with me, your host, Apple Kreider. Today we are sitting down with Rytis Lauris, the founder of Omnisend. And then this episode is really meaningful for me, and it kind of represents a little bit of a shift in what I'm trying to accomplish with the podcast, because as time has gone on, as I've learned more about business, about myself, about what I'm trying to accomplish with this show and with the people that I reach and with the people that I connect with, I've begun to realize that there's a really big difference between having a social media business and having a real business. And looking back and reflecting on a lot of the guests that I've had on this show in the past, I've been focused very heavily on people with like social media businesses. And that's been for a variety of reasons. One, I mean, that's the network that I'm plugged into. On Instagram, the people that you see talking about how successful they are the people with social media businesses. Okay, like they're the people who are trying to broadcast themselves so that they can get more people into their funnel, into their business. And that's well and good, but there's a huge distinction between having like a social media business and what I would call like a quote unquote real business, like a Silicon Valley startup. And so with this episode, it's kind of going to represent a little bit of a pivot, because I want to start shifting more into the world of like startups and people who are growing and running real business. I mean businesses like Airbnb, like Uber, like these startups that are really shaking things up. Not so much the guy who's out there selling tens of millions of dollars of his online program. I would much rather sit down with the girl who started a company that's really making an impact on the world as a whole. So I'm thinking that going forward, I'm going to prioritize a lot more getting those type of people on the show, even though they don't have as big of a social audience, because they're actually focused on building their business, and the episodes might not reach quite as many people if I don't have these guys with huge social media followings pushing them out to their followers. But I think it's going to provide a lot more value to people to actually hear from the people that are running real businesses that are really making an impact. Because sure, I mean, teaching people how to start a social media marketing agency is great, but I think something that's a lot more powerful and a lot more helpful and maybe educational to this audience, you, the listener, would be hearing from people who have businesses that they have been able to create from the ground up to really shake things up. I mean, that's what I am really infatuated with right now, and I hope you guys are as well. So we're sitting down with Rytis today to talk about his company Omnisend, but specifically one of the things we're going to be talking about, and one of the reasons why I think this is such a good episode to kind of start this pivot with, is because Rytis went from a service-based agency and transitioned that into a SaaS company. Okay, so SaaS, software as a service. We're going to be talking a lot more about SaaS companies going forward, just because that's what a lot of startups are doing. So Rytis had this digital marketing agency, okay? Well, a digital agency. He was doing a little bit of marketing, a lot of sort of like app design, web design. He had a bunch of IT guys on board, and he transitioned that completely from a service-based, client-based business where he was helping clients, and he had this whole team of people that were fulfilling and helping clients, and he transitioned that entire business into a software company, and ended up selling his entire client base. So this was a really cool conversation for me, because it really sort of represents that shift that I'm trying to make with the podcast, in taking it from like showing you all these people who are like running successful social media marketing agencies or like doing Shopify and stuff, to the people who are running real businesses. And now he's got Omnisend going on, which he's going to talk about. It's a super cool company. I mean, if you're doing anything in e-commerce, I think it could really provide a ton of value to you. Basically, it's like an all-in-one automation platform where you can send out text messages, emails, push notifications, Facebook messages, do all this different stuff. It's all synchronized. You have all your customer data in one place. It is crazy cool. So I'm really excited for him to dive into that as well. But I think it's going to be really cool for you guys to hear from someone who has started multiple startups and has been in the game for quite a while. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this episode that's sort of marking this shift in the podcast. I know I had a lot of fun sitting down with Rytis. So without further ado, enjoy the podcast. All right, Rytis, welcome to Young Smart Money. How are you doing today?
Hey, Apple. Yeah, I'm great. Thanks for hosting me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. So, for our listeners that aren't super familiar with who you are and what you're doing, they got to hear a bit about you in the intro to this episode. But for those of them that don't know who you are, could you give us a quick 60-second snapshot of sort of what you're working on right now? And then we're going to sort of flash back in time and work our way up.
Yeah, so I'm a co-founder and CEO of Omnisend. Omnisend is a marketing automation platform built for e-commerce sophisticated marketers. We help automate marketing activities and to communicate with existing customer base more easier and more effective. So to mainly increase sales. And I am the guy behind a lot of different operations, as you know, running a company. And you cover a lot of different fields.
100%. I'm super stoked to dive into that. But before we do, I kind of like to start off the episodes by flashing back in time to sort of your early upbringing. So talking about like those high schoolish years. I know y'all don't particularly call it that over where you're at right now, but talking about like 16, 17 years old. What was Rytis up to that time period?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, I would say, yeah, I was even getting more back in time machine when I
Sure.
was a kid. I was really modest kid and quite reserved. I was always good with like learning things and but not very social,
Hmm.
I would say, which is an opposite to what I am now. And and I guess everything has changed when I was around like 13 or 14. I got involved in some non-governmental organizations and activities like school students union and school level, the national level, etc., etc. So that what really made a huge impact on my personality and what to learn me to network with people, to make new connections, to organize things, to manage things, to focus, to pick priorities, etc., etc. So that really made a huge impact on all these non-governmental activities and being active in those organizations.
Hmm. What was the draw to you to those things? Was it the causes? Was it surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals, or what? Why were you drawn to that?
I would say that, being honest, it was accidental. like, so there was kind of election happening in high school, like for school students union, and some of my classmates said, "Oh, maybe we'd like to participate," and said, I don't know, maybe. And I was elected there. There was kind of democratic election. People were voting anonymously, etc., counting all the votes. So there was already a process which really, put me into a little bit different environment, a little bit different activities. So that was really helpful for my personality and for personal growth, I would say.
Huh. So there you sort of got exposed to different sort of like leadership and sort of like coordinating efforts and stuff. How did that sort of move with you forward into the projects that you started to work on from there?
Yeah, so directly, I would say, when I was in the university studying, I was, I could say, 21 at that time. So one of fellows, one of friend of mine, which I have met in one of those like school children organization. He was from different school and studying different subject, but he kind of outreached me and said, "What do you think about launching our company and starting our business?" And so at that time already had the mindset and the credo that opportunities they do appear, but if you decline those opportunities, they stop offering
Hmm.
themselves to you. So
Hmm.
so you have to take all the opportunities, I mean, which come. So at that time, based on this mindset, I said, okay, well, I don't know anything about business, to be honest, but why not? That sounds great. Let's start a company. Let's start a business. So that was my first business at the age of like 21.
So what exactly was that business, and what were you doing there?
Nowadays it's even like already strange things, but before the smartphone, there was like dummy phones, and intermediate was the feature phones with some like polyphonic melodies, and having a screensaver which is colorful.
Hmm.
Before, no colors were in phones, so you can customize those screensavers and melodies like ring melodies. So creating all these customized screensavers and desktops. Like desktops for phone screens and phone ringtone melodies. That was the subject. We were creating those things and selling, and people were buying those.
Huh.
Yeah, it's something which is old school now, and you can't even imagine. I
Yeah, I
guess
mean, now we just
what
have
I'm
so
talking
many
about.
options. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but it was some years ago.
That's fascinating. So did that do well? And like, what did you end up learning from that?
No, I would say that was intermediate. It was something like self-employment. So we, as at that age, it was some extra money for our own needs. But I wouldn't call it like successful business. But I have learned a lot of things there. About what VAT, what sales tax is, or like how does hiring people look like, how does managing people look like, etc. So, but I had already some experience with like people management from my school years and environmental activities, but all this like taxes, legal stuff, accountancy, bookkeeping, all those things. So I have learned a lot, and although it was not like super successful, finally we like have sold that company with a little bit of profit. It was not something like
Huh.
extraordinary, but yeah, but I would still consider it like a rather successful thing. And it was a little bit profitable and a lot of great lessons I have learned.
Sure. So after you ended up selling that, were you still in school or was that after you graduated?
I was the That's a good question. That's something around me graduating like university, so around 22 or 23. Yeah, something like.
Okay. And then after you got out of school, you went into the 9 to 5 life, correct?
Yeah, that's shy. A little bit. I mean, just a little bit. So for a while I was working, yeah, nine to five. But that was a short period of time. After that, I went after like another venture, and like technically I used to work for in my life for like 1 year or so, 9 to 5. I'm 36 now, so starting 15 years ago. It sounds so many years ago, but yeah. So in 15 years, I would say like 14 years of those, I used to run my own ventures. One of
Wow.
them.
So
Yeah.
when you were working that 9 to 5, did you always have it on your mind that you wanted to leave, like from the very beginning, or was that something that you figured out later on?
And no, that was actually the company. The company was owned by the dad of one good friend of mine. So, and the dad was not very interested in that business anymore. So he kind of left it for his son and his friend to run the company. And so it, although I didn't have stake there, but I had a lot of freedom and I had a lot of impact on what we were doing, etc. So it was not like typical 9 to 5 job because of that impact of for business, and because of like importance of decisions you were available to make. So that was not typical. Therefore, I felt really good there, and they didn't want to leave. But the I'm Lithuanian, and the story which I'm telling, it had happened in Lithuania. Lithuania is a small country in Northern Europe. Um, so the vision was always to build something like global business. So the initial venture and the second company I was working to, it was something like local. So we have started our first startup at that time with exactly the same fellow, the same friend whose father's business we were uh, kind of running. And yeah, and that venture it was called Treenix, and we were selling like gift cards printed with an eco ink on eco paper, and planting a real tree for every postcard sold.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the draw to like the environmental side of that? Is that something that you've always been interested in, or were you? Yeah.
Eh, Yeah, being honest, that was two pieces. One is, I mean, yeah, I really start concerning about as you grow up. When I was a teenager, I didn't like take care of that much, but at that time, I would say only like the trend appeared like environment, and we should take care of our planet. And Inconvenient Truth, the book and the movie by Al Gore was very popular at that time, which inspired me a lot. That okay, our planet is so beautiful, and we are making so bad things with that. So it's kind of one piece. Another piece was like more rational, as we saw opportunities there. That the trend is upcoming, and more people are concerned about the future of the planet. So why not like do something both socially responsible and then like seeing business opportunity and earning money out of that. So
Yeah.
it was a combination of both of that.
Sure. So yeah, so taking advantage of those opportunities, but also having that cognizant sort of recognition that there was a problem and that you did want to be on the correct side of it.
Yeah, that's true.
Sure. So I'm curious as well where that goal came from, because you mentioned you had this goal of starting a global business. What was sort of the driver behind that, or the motivation? Like, why did you want to create a global business? Like, what was the point?
I don't have rational answer here. Just something. Sometimes things just come from the bottom of your heart, and you feel. I love traveling. It's one piece, and maybe being from like a smaller country where you don't have huge home market. So if you want to create really something substantial, something big, so you need to think global and to create global either product or services. So uh, I mean, I'm trying to rationalize now. I have never thought about that, why I did it, but it kind of seems like, it just came somewhere from the bottom of the heart.
Huh. That's very interesting, because yeah, I definitely I have a similar drive in that I'm looking to impact a lot of people with both my message and with my business. And I definitely I can relate with that. But I was just wondering if there was any sort of like internal drivers that were there too.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, there was kind of no event or something like what happened in
Sure.
your life that you made that decision. Just yeah, I guess it's more like seeing that local market is very very small. So creating a big impact. That's the only way to start thinking global and to serve a global market.
Absolutely. So the next project that you decided to pursue was more on the service based side of things, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So after that, which was kind of a very beginning of what Omnisend is now. So I have launched a digital marketing agency. So
Mhm.
initially it was more IT development agency selling developers hours for custom project development like websites, online stores, Facebook applications, etc. So starting from just IT, pure IT development, then adding uh, marketing layer, digital marketing layer on top, and like becoming a full service agency for the customer needs, and then developing, promoting things, and etc. But that was small. That was purely service business. So service business has a lot of challenges that you need to fight for each project again and again. And we had some retainers, but it was mainly like project based. So you're never sure if you're gonna have enough customers like in 2 months, in 3 months, etc.
Wow.
So a lot of a headache. Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to dive more into that, because I know a lot of young listeners are sort of infatuated by this like digital agency model, this service based model. So I want you to sort of dive a little bit deeper into. I mean, you mentioned sort of what the business looked like, but yeah, talk about some of those challenges that you faced and that service based businesses tend to run into.
Mhm. Yeah. So despite the fact it is challenging business, but it's very very good school, I would say. Good lessons you can learn there, because like you are serving so many different customers, and customers are different and their needs are different, and of course they always want something you to do yesterday. I mean, tomorrow is not okay. They needed it yesterday, and
Yeah.
always, and especially like in IT at some time ago, people were not that well educated, and they thought that to build a online store or like a proper website, it's gonna take you like one day, just a couple of lines of code, and
Oh, then you're up and running. Yeah, it's
yeah,
easy.
yeah, it's easy. Just but look, come on, I'm asking you to add the single button, and you are
That's all
like
I need.
calculating
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it's 2 days of work. Come on, it's just a single button. Yeah, so I would say it's more kind of emotional part that you need to switch during the day so many times. You cannot focus like to many projects, different projects, different needs of the customers. Customer is always right, so you have to please them, and then it's not easy. It's kind of emotional part, and more like, let's say, rational part is really, again, project-based businesses. It's really challenging because you are not sure about the future, and yeah, it's one part, and cash flow management. Some customers, they don't pay on time, then you need to somehow manage the cash flow, and especially in this agency business, because the vast majority of your expenses are salaries, because you hire people, and you cannot be late with salaries, and so cash flow is very, very important here. You have no no right to delay with your major line of expenses.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that, I would say, that was another challenge, to always find new projects, and then manage cash flow, and all that things. But on the other hand, as I said, I mean, it's a really, really good school, a good university of business. So I would suggest anyone, before starting his like product, if you want to build like product, as we do have a Saas product now, so to learn things and to see a more like customers point of view, like larger customers, and like from agency side, trains you to really be more customer centric. I mean, because that's the only way to do, and to be. Once you're building your the product, once you're building the product, you sometimes you can lose the relationship, closer relationship with your.
Mm.
It's very, very important not to lose, but it's easier comparing to like the agency.
That's a really good point that you brought up. I'm curious, bouncing back, where did you have all of these IT people in house, or was that sort of like a virtual relationship that you had with your team?
No, we have hired, yeah. So that was challenging as well, because retention was a challenge. So comparing like agency, as especially developers, they're not usually they're not that happy to work with many different projects, comparing to like being able to work to one product. So the customer like team retention and employees retention was a challenge at the time, which is not the case now when we're building the product, and the team believes in product, and they can focus on very specific pieces, and they can see more impact, comparing to, let's say, you're creating some campaign website, like marketing campaign website, which is being thrown away after 2 months of campaign. So you don't feel like long-term impact on what you are doing. So um,
Yeah, I mean, fulfillment is huge for any project that anyone's working on. Like, they're going to want to be able to see like that big picture and really understand like what their contribution is helping to build. And yeah, like you said, if it's just like a throwaway website, then they're probably not going to feel as satisfied in that position as if they're working on say like a SaaS product or something that really does have that longevity and is going to be around for a while.
Yeah, that's correct. But despite that, we believe that to bring a really good quality, and to offer a good quality, it's necessary to have the in-house team. So we outsourced a little bit, but mainly we had all the personnel in-house, which was very good once we turned our business to a SaaS company, as we had a team in place already.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be an interesting pivot for sure, because, and that's something that I really want to dive into, because I know a lot of young listeners are sort of infatuated by this whole digital marketing agency model. Not quite at the scale that yours was at, but at this sort of like one-off, like solopreneur with maybe a couple virtual assistants. that are running social media ad campaigns for local businesses or something. Like that's a whole like pop culture business model right there that's being heavily promoted by a lot of people. So I want you to sort of talk about how you transitioned your agency into a SaaS business, because I think that is a very interesting transition. And obviously, your agency was at a very different place than a lot of young people's are that are listening. But I think there's still going to be a lot of parallels that people can draw if you sort of walked us through why you decided to make that transition and then how you actually executed on that.
Mhm. So I would say the first and the most important thing is really finding customer pain. So your product, which you're gonna build, what kind of pain it's gonna solve. So I see a lot of, especially when young people, a lot of people like pitching myself or in some like startup competition in pitch contests that they have an idea of apps. I mean, I'm gonna build an app, blow everybody's mind, and like billions of people gonna use it. So in my point of view, I mean, we have Facebook because it's Facebook. We have Instagram, which is now acquired by Facebook. We have Snapchat. We have some of those success stories, which are outliers. And you cannot predict that success, and you cannot create the company. You should not try to create another Facebook. And at the same time, there are thousands of really successful, like worth millions, tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions, um, SaaS companies like IT products, which are very successful. I mean, gives you a lot of fortune as a founder, but they're not becoming like outliers, one of a kind. So, my point of view, it's better for, especially for young people, to really focus on building that kind of business. I mean, building next Omnisend, but not next Facebook. And if you work smart and hard, what's that's what I always say to the team. Like, you have to work smart and hard, and on top you need some luck. But initial is like, building routine things, doing job, everyday routine, which is sometimes not that interesting, not that fascinating. And if you have some luck on top, so then you're gonna succeed and you're gonna.
I want to hear more about how you think about luck, because I know luck's a very an interesting word, and a lot of people have a lot of different definitions as far as luck goes. So talk to us a bit about how you think about luck and what you mean when you say luck.
So I would define it really being in the right place at the right time, and so it's luck. And another very important component is being ready to accept that luck.
Yeah.
So that's working hard and smart piece is very, very important, because if the luck comes, but you're not ready to take it, so it's gonna go. So
All right. So you found that problem that your customers were having, in this case,
yeah,
a marketing solution. You figured you needed to provide this solution.
yeah.
Where'd you go from there?
Yeah, so in our case, so again, for young people listening, so if you are serving your customers currently and you see some specific problem that they have and no one is solving in the market, so in our case, that exactly was. So as we were working with e-commerce businesses, as we saw that email marketing is generic email marketing made for everyone, but e-commerce businesses, they have specific capabilities, they have specific data, and they have specific needs, which are not properly served. And then talking about small and medium-sized businesses, as enterprise level, that was solved at the time. But like for small and medium businesses, they had like Mailchimp, which was very generic. They had other generic email service providers, but very very few like upstarts as we have launched at that time. So we saw this problem from our own experience. We built the tool, believing that there is a monetizable customer pain. Like, customer pain is very important, but monetizable aspect is very very important, or even more important, I would say.
How do you figure out whether a customer pain is in fact monetizable?
Um, Ask them to pay. Yeah. So yeah, you say for the customer, I have a solution for a pain. It's gonna cost you $10 or maybe $1,000. If they pay, it's a monetizable pain. If they don't, that means that they can live with that pain and they're not willing to pay anything for relieving.
Hmm. Do you ask them to pay before you make it?
No, in our case, we did not. Oh, let's say partial, but more no. Yeah, we had like customers which our agency customers, which we knew that we're gonna apply directly and include in our retainer cost. But yeah, but that was kind of not direct invitation to pay in advance. Yeah.
So you knew you'd be able to get some use out of that with your existing customer base. So it wasn't, you didn't necessarily have to gamble as much because you knew that there would be some application.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's correct. So we saw that there is a market need. We were not sure about the size of like total addressable market. So that made easier. That was not. I mean, we made a transition here. That was not that I have a brand new idea and I'm not sure about that. I just talk to people, analyze. We felt by ourselves and doing our daily job that there is a need. We're not sure about the market size, but we were sure that at some point, at some level, need does exist.
Sure. So then you start developing. I'm assuming you start actually creating this software.
Yeah, that's correct. And having team, having developers, having designers in-house really helped here. Yeah, for some of the team members currently, we have actually in like leading positions in management positions. So with some of them, we do work for already 10 years. So
Wow. So when
that's a huge value. I mean, finding
yeah.
great co-founders and the initial team. It's a challenge for every startup, and it's a great value if you have any background which helps you to solve that.
Talk to us about that process of really finding good people. I mean, what did you do to find these people who are still with you, whatever, like 3, 5, 8 years later?
So once I read some years ago some study which was scientific study about how important is all the recruitment process and all those great tests and then having like 4 interviews before you hire a person. So that was analyzed like um, two methodologies applied. One was like all, let's say, full scope employment process, and another was just randomly employed people. Like you've got a first CV and you have employed that person. And after a few years, there was no difference. Like how did people perform? How many of them stayed with the company, etc. So in our case, especially at early days, now we have more like capacity to evaluate people a little bit. We made it a little bit more complex, but still we don't, even nowadays, we don't go through like very comprehensive process. I'm a huge believer in like testing by doing. Hire fast, fire fast. Just having a 3 months trial, real trial period when you see if there is a match, if the person is good for the company, if the company is the right place to be for a person, because it's both ways. I mean, sometimes there might be a great person, but just not there is no cultural fit in that specific team. It might be a great fit for another team, but not for this one. So just try it out.
So I totally that's really interesting. So when you do hire someone, do you make it very clear to them like this is like a trial period? We'll reevaluate after whatever 30 days and then go from there?
Yeah, we are really honest, especially in IT industry. It's not that people can find a job quite easily, more or less.
Yeah.
So it's not like super harmful thing for none of the sides. So why to continue doing things if there is no match? So yeah, so we openly say that this is let's try. I mean, but both sides we're open. We're open. Like this is a trial for both of us. So and we want to work together for a long years. And if we see that there is no match, it's better to see it soon rather than after 1 year or 2 years. So
Yeah.
it's better to say bye in 3 months or after 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. So is Omnisend fully SaaS based now, or do you guys still do client work?
Yeah, it's fully SaaS based.
Okay. So how did that transition look from having clients, you start incorporating SaaS, and now it's just SaaS? So how did that work?
So at some point, we made a decision that the SaaS product was uptaking
Okay.
slowly. Initially, it was not very, very fast. It didn't boom, but like little by little, we started earning more and more money from that. At some point, that we made a decision that we need to focus. So it's another thing that I'm strong believer in, the focus. So what I mean, if you want to achieve something, you need to laser focus on something, and the probability to be successful it's going to be much higher. Yeah, so we made a decision to focus, and at that time we had still clients serving, like doing custom development for them. So we found another agency which is doing exactly the same. We knew them for already a while. They used to be our rival, but at the same time we had like really human level good relationship with them. So we just offered them to buy our portfolio of customers and our contracts. So that was kind of semi exit, not selling the full company, but selling the portfolio of your existing customers and getting some cash to develop your product.
Huh. Yeah, that's an interesting way to go about that. So, how I'm assuming the SaaS side of things was not nearly as big as the sort of like client work at that point, or were they about equal?
And not that was not as big. Yeah, that was a risk. That was a bet. Yeah, we just start seeing like first signs, and we believed that it can succeed, and that was a bet. But again, it was good. I mean, it was good because you throw yourself out of your comfort zone. Instead of like having a cash, some kind of buffer, you start feeling that you are burning your cash, and you have less and less cash in the bank account every month, and then you focus on how to earn money, how to change the situation.
So, what were some of those first signs that you were seeing, and how would you, or how do you rather think about how to know when jumping is a smart move or when it's reckless?
So in our case, it was like that we had some already paying customers who
Hmm.
have installed Omnisend, found somewhere, start using onboardings, using for us. At that time, the product was not, that was, far away from being great, or
Sure.
even far away from even being good. So yeah, so we had a huge churn rate at that time, but customers were not satisfied of what we got. But on the other hand, we had a proof that okay, the need really does exist in the market. Customers believe in what we promise. They have this need. They started paying for solving their problems, and because we were not like solving 100% good, they were ditching us and going after other solution, which is solving exactly the same problem. So we kind of had a proof already that the monetizable customer pain does exist. It's only the question who going to solve this problem for those customers. It's if it's going to be us or it's going to be our competitors. Yeah, so that was the point for us. That we understood that it's the matter of building product which is good enough to keep customers, and customers going to pay.
Absolutely. So how are you soliciting feedback, or how are you learning from your customers what they wanted to see?
It's a very important piece. I mean, being customer centric, it's not that easy. I mean, in theory, it's much easier to get all the feedback, especially when you have like thousands of customers and thousands of paying customers, tens of thousands of customers and thousands of paying customers. So to like aggregate all the feedback. So we do apply multiple techniques like NPS, NPS satisfaction score. We have invented like something like we call it FES, first experience score. We ask how did you find the first experience, and we improve the onboarding process based on that. We do have support tickets and support agents. They do leave some comments, and they do pass feedback to our product team. We do have public reviews, which our customers leave on, let's say, Shopify, App Store, G2, Capterra, other platforms. We do have some feedback coming from the sales team that prospects are having some questions around something, and we do accumulate that. So currently we have one person dedicated just to analyze all of those.
Wow. I was going to ask you how you aggregate that and how you actually like make decisions based off it, but you have a full-time person that's just doing that.
Yeah, there is a full-time person, yeah. And we have some kind of quite basic methodology based on the size of a customer, based on some potential of a customer, and yeah, so that's how we prioritize our technical roadmap.
Huh. That's fascinating. That is really, really fascinating. I'm just, yeah, the gears are turning for sure. So I'm curious as well. Can you tell the listeners? I mean, we've been talking about it a little bit as far as like a marketing solution goes, but like just fill the listeners in on like what Omnisend actually does and like how it physically works.
Yeah, so I would just give an example. If you do sell online, we are built for e-commerce stores. If you do sell online, you just install Omnisend. We do synchronize all the data you have about your customers, about your purchasing history. We do start tracking your customers' online behavior, like the visits to your website, what pages do they visit, etc. And with us, you can start collecting email addresses, Facebook Messenger subscribers, push notification subscribers, text messages subscribers, as we cover all those different channels. So you start collecting subscribers, then you can start sending campaigns for your existing mailing list, like subscribers list, like email campaigns, SMS campaigns, push notification campaigns, etc. And you automate things. Let's say Apple has visited our website but didn't complete any purchase, but we see that he has browsed smartphones. So we automatically started the campaign by different channels, reminding you that maybe you are in a position to buy some new phone. So here are some advices, here are products, etc., etc. And so it's just one of examples. And then we help online merchants to drive you to the transaction and serve after transaction. Let's sending email asking, so how did you like our product, what is your experience, are you happy with that? And if they haven't seen you for a while already, and they're like online store traditional sales cycle, it's let's say 6 months, and they haven't seen you already for 7 months, so we start automated campaign to show you banners on Facebook to remind about the store that it does exist, maybe send you some Facebook Messenger message or so. So those are kind of examples how we help to communicate with existing customers.
Yeah, this is like next level marketing right here. I mean, I feel like the name is extremely, extremely relevant because it's like it's just omnipresent, literally everywhere. Like getting hit notifications, getting hit text message, email, Facebook, like all the places. So like it just blows my mind that because like I do a lot of like marketing to my list and stuff, and it's cool to see that there is like a one-stop shop, because right now I've got like a bunch of stuff that I'm just like piecing together, but
So
it's
that's our idea exactly, to bring it as there are different point solutions for like email marketing, for SMS marketing, for push notifications, but you don't have a single customer view, and having it on one flow and behind one profile, and really understand how to communicate with customer, which is more effective and less intrusive.
yeah.
You prioritize channels, and then you don't start like holistic campaign and start uh, being too intrusive and too many messages in too short period of time. So that helps both to make this marketing more relevant, and it helps to achieve better results for online stores.
Yeah, and just being able to have all that data in one place on like what your people are up to and like what each person has done, and just having all that aggregated, that's just like I'm just blown away by how much of a value add that is. Like I saw what you guys are doing. I'm like, dang, this is like some really valuable stuff. So I mean, if any of y'all are in e-commerce, and I know a lot of you guys are, I definitely, I mean, you guys got to check out Omnisend. Like they're doing some really, really cool stuff, and Rytis is just he's crushing the game. So thank you so much for hopping on the podcast. I have some questions now that I like to ask all of my guests before we wrap up. So are you feeling ready for those?
Yes, sure. Jump
Let's
in.
do it. The first of which is what is something that genuinely has you excited right now?
Um, growth.
Growth in
Growth
all areas?
in all areas. Yeah, his business is growing, team is growing. It's a really challenging thing, but that's really fascinating. And the most fascinating part is really that I feel the personal growth
Hmm.
as a specialist, as a manager, as CEO. And I believe that a lot of our team members, they are growing as people, as specialists as well. So that's really fascinating.
Hmm. That's good stuff to see. That's exciting for sure. I'm also curious whether you have any habits that have served you particularly well, either in your business or your lifestyle.
Um, that's not an easy question. I would say like ability to focus.
Okay.
That's very important, and to choose priorities and to stick for those priorities for a while, but not be too stubborn with that. But yeah,
How do you train
you
that? How do you train your focus?
um mm, by how to say helping others in the team to focus, and once you see that they've lost the focus, reminding about that and pointing it out, and asking them to do the same. I
Hmm.
mean, my teammates sometimes, it's one of a practice you can apply, and for yourself as well. Once you have a list of like to-do list for the day, a very basic example, and uh, non it's never that all of the tasks are the equal important. So picking the right tasks, like very, very basic exercises, just, naming them A, B, C. So A tasks, you start doing it immediately. B task, you might be doing some time. And C tasks, usually you never do those. but for a while, you keep it in your to-do list or calendar because it's human nature
Yeah,
to keep things in.
absolutely. So I'm curious as well. What or who rather is an entrepreneur that you look up to?
There's no like one specific person.
Okay.
I like reading like biography books,
Mhm.
like of the people who have like achieved a lot in their lifetime, and some of them are kind of old already. Some of them are not. So like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs, uh, Richard Branson, some politicians like JFK. I recently read a
Hmm.
biography of JFK. It's not about business, but it's also about leadership, about
Yeah.
management by the broad mean.
Hmm. Last thing I want to ask you is, what's a technology that you feel is overrated?
uh, Technology which is overrated. I don't know.
Okay.
There's no one exactly at this point, which I would say that no, nothing comes to my mind like currently that.
Okay. That's a fair answer. That's a fair answer.
So,
All right,
I
Rytis.
didn't.
Well, man, thank you so much for hopping on the show. Where can our listeners go if they want to find out more about you and more about Omnisend?
So it's omnisend.com, and I love LinkedIn, so Rytis Lauris on LinkedIn. So I'm posting things. That's my most preferred social network.
Cool.
I use LinkedIn. I use Twitter a little bit, much less Facebook.
Awesome. Well, I'll put
Instagram, etc. Yeah, so those
I'll put links to
more
those in the
focused on
show
LinkedIn.
notes so our listeners can
Yeah.
find you, connect with you, all that good stuff. I'm extremely grateful for you coming on the show. Do you have any last parting thoughts, words of wisdom, or anything you want to leave the listener with?
So as as far as I understand, like vast majority of the listeners are young people. So my advice would be, start doing things. Just do it. That's a great slogan. Nike is a great company, but the slogan is even better. And yeah, and there's another like mm, yeah. So just those who start doing things, those succeed with.
There we go. Just do it. Thank you so much, Rytis. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise, thanks for inviting me.
Bada bing, bada boom. That is a wrap, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this last episode of Young Smart Money. If you did, you know what to do. Drop us a 5-star review on iTunes. It would mean the world to me. I literally run on reviews like they are the fuel that goes into my body and gets me jazzed up, fired up every single morning. So if you take the time, literally it's like 5 seconds to drop a review. If you're in the podcast app, literally just go to Young Smart Money, scroll all the way down past all the episodes. At the very bottom, there'll be a section that says write a review. If you could drop me all of your thoughts, all of your questions, all your comments, all your concerns, I would love to read those. I read each and every one of them, and I really do take them all to heart. So that would mean a ton if you could do that. Otherwise, if you guys are wondering how I make money on the show, because if y'all notice, I don't put sponsors on the podcast. I don't believe in that. I don't want to waste your time listening to some ad about Squarespace or whatever they're promoting these days on the podcast. And I've been approached by plenty of sponsors, believe me, but they all get shown where the door is because that's not what I believe in. But I am still able to monetize this podcast, turn it into a consistent 5 figures per month of income. If you guys are wondering how I do that, I put together a free cheat sheet for y'all. It's a little bit more than a cheat sheet. It's kind of like an ebook. It's like 20 some pages long where I laid out the 16 methods that I use to monetize my podcast. So if you guys are interested in that, again, completely free, just head over to applecreator.com/cheat sheet. That's applecreator.com/cheat sheet, and you can download that completely for free. Cheat sheet is all one word. Don't ask me to spell it though, because I will probably mess up. So guys, applecreator.com/cheat sheet for the free cheat sheet, how I'm able to monetize my podcast consistently, 5 figures per month off of that. I really am passionate about podcasting and I want to teach y'all how to do it because I see these guys making videos on YouTube teaching you like the bare minimum, the basics, the stuff that nobody like needs to actually learn. But it's that advanced stuff. It's how to actually make money doing this without having to put sponsors on your show that I think is really, truly valuable. So that's why I wanted to share that with y'all. So guys, again, absolutely free to download. Link will also be in the show notes for this episode. Otherwise, I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful rest of your day wherever it leads you. And I'm glad you decided to spend the last hour here with us on Young Smart Money. Real quick, just launched a new project called the Online Course Examiner, basically the Yelp of online courses. It is blowing up lately, onlinecourseexaminer.com. Check it out.